The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Good afternoon and welcome to Chit-Chatting with Jocelyn. I am Jocelyn, your host, and this afternoon we have Dan McGrath of Jester Technologies back again for a very important discussion. Today's show we're going to do in two parts. The first half is going to be the hard reality of retirement. What does it mean? How do you go about getting Medicare? I have a couple of examples that we could briefly discuss, give you some idea of what's going on. And welcome to the show, Dan.
Thank you very much, Jocelyn.
I'm so glad to have you here. We go way back. We did radio. We were just talking about that, the right group.
Yes.
Back on WLMW. So I think it's about 6 years now.
Yes.
It is. How time flies.
Seems like 8 minutes underwater.
It does. Oh, my goodness. So, Dan, tell us about Jester Technology.
Well, all Jester is basically a fintech or a financial technologies firm. All we do is provide education, marketing, and software tools for people so they can figure out what their healthcare costs are going to be in retirement and find out which plans are best suited for them.
Wow. Okay. And no easy task. I know you have charts and data, but yes, trying to match it to people and what their peculiarities and needs and everything are,
yes,
is probably where it gets a little complicated, although you do it on a large basis for companies.
So we work specifically with financial professionals. The financial professional will bring a particular person wanting to have a little bit more, having a little bit more one-on-one approach to what they need to be doing when they actually retire.
Okay.
We're the ones that solve all those problems.
So when you hit 64, you start getting the letters from Medicare, and they say you need to pick Part A, Part B, C is the supplemental, and D is the drug?
C is Medicare Advantage, so you have a choice.
Oh, sorry, okay.
Once you're 64, you start getting letters in the mail deciding or asking you or informing you that you have a decision to make. Do you want to stay with original Medicare, or do you want to go with what is known as a Medicare Advantage plan?
Okay, so a lot of people ask questions about Part D, which is prescriptions.
Yes.
I know there's all sorts of problems with that you need to get it right away, or if you wait, there's a penalty. Some people have issues with different tier drugs that are covered and not covered. So that all has to be addressed. You know, you need to go through that to decide what plan is best for you.
So we argue, or we make the point, or we explain to people that if you're planning for your greatest asset, which is your health, 6 months prior to your retirement, you have done a very poor job actually planning for your retirement.
Right.
So one of the key questions that you have to ask when it comes to your health side is, what is your health condition and what medications are you on? That's the biggest driver. So when you start talking about Part D, which is prescription drug coverage, you have to decide which type of plan you're going to purchase. In the state of New Hampshire, there's, I believe, 26 different plans that you can purchase.
Okay.
I could be wrong. It might be a little bit
Give
smaller.
or take, yeah.
National average is there's about 27 to 29 plans on every state. But New Hampshire and Maine, who have actually the exact same plans, is always a little bit smaller. So you have to decide which plan you want, and you also have to decide, do you want to go with original Medicare, or do you want to get your Medicare coverage through a private insurance company through a Medicare Advantage plan?
Okay.
And then you have to line up your medications for that.
So when you say a Medicare Advantage plan,
yes,
you're talking something like Florida Blue?
So no, Florida Blue, I believe, goes through Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Okay.
That should be what is known as a supplemental plan. That's a complement to original Medicare.
Okay. So what would be a Medicare Advantage plan?
Those that watch television and see commercials about learning more about Medicare, and we can give you a plan with very low upfront costs, that is a Medicare Advantage plan.
And they take your the $147 that they take out of your Social Security check, that Medicare portion, they take that and apply that as part of your
No.
payment?
So what you're talking about is Medicare Part B premium. It's $144.60 a month in 2020. You're paying that no matter what that comes out of your Social Security check.
Okay.
Medicare Advantage applies itself to Medicare Part A and Part B, and then it provides other insurance that you can pay for or not pay for. So when they talk about it being premium free, they're going to manage your health care. You're going to be inside their network and you're going to see their physicians and go through their rules. Most of the time, you're not paying. The reason why you're not paying for that coverage is they are subsidized by the federal government to keep the premiums low. So when you hear the federal government talking about, well, the latest was the current president of the United States is going to be cutting Medicare. He's really not cutting Medicare. What he's doing is he's lowering the subsidy that's being paid to the private insurance companies to help manage you, manage your health care.
Okay. And Medicare people throughout their working life have had that tax taken out of their paycheck.
Yes.
And so therefore we have paid into it, and so has our employers.
Yes.
So that's been accumulated over 20, 30, 40 years, whatever it is.
That's actually paying for what is known as Part A, or the high-end, the health insurance trust funds. So
Right.
paying for
But I
Part
just want people to understand where that money was coming from and that you've paid into it for your whole working life.
The subsidy going to the Medicare Advantage plan is completely different.
No, I get that.
Okay.
So just backing up, I'm thinking of all these things that people have said to me and kind of throwing them at you.
Sure.
So when you start working, the Medicare is taken out of your paycheck. Social Security is also taken out of your paycheck. And both of those are subsidized by you, the employee, and you, the employer.
Yes.
And that's sent to the federal government. So when you retire, 65, if you do, that money, your money, is returned to you, or used for you, I should say. It's not returned to you, but used for you for, in this case, Medicare, for your health care. Your job,
portion of it, yes.
A portion of it. And then at this point in time, because of health costs, you need to have a supplemental
It depends.
or an advantage plan.
So you have a choice. So if you go original Medicare, that's you paying for your premiums yourself, you picking your plans yourself. You have Part A, Part B, then you have to buy a standalone prescription drug coverage for your medications, and then you have an option to buy what is known as a supplemental plan.
Okay.
The supplemental plan, all it does is it fills in the gaps of Medicare Part A and Part B.
Okay.
So plans range from very little to extremely robust, A to G. So a G plan will cover all deductibles, all copays, and all excess charges, with the exception of the Part B deductible. So the example we give, if you get admitted as an inpatient to a medically recognized hospital for a medical need, and you have original Medicare, you're going to be hit with about a $1,400 deductible for Part A.
Okay.
You're then going to be hit with a 20% copay for Medicare Part B, so that's your physicians, and then you're going to get hit with another 15% excess charge for what the doctor charges.
Right.
So your bill could be, depending on what you go in for, your bill can be anywhere between $70,000 to $80,000. Then you also only have a limited amount of time within the hospital. You only have a certain amount of days for your for your hospital room. So once those expire, you're now paying the full freight for your room.
Okay.
What a supplemental plan does is it fills in all the gaps. It pays for the deductibles, it pays the copay with the exception of the Part B deductible, and extends your ability to stay in the hospital. So you can go into a hospital for a full year, have a procedure every single day, and it'll cost you nothing.
Okay.
And then be choosing between original Medicare or you choose a Medicare Advantage plan. Medicare Advantage plans, basically, instead of you having original Medicare Part A, Part B, you sign up with that insurance company. They still provide the exact same benefits as Part A, Part B by law, but you're now in a network. So you have to go see their primary care physician first, and you have to get a referral, see their specialists.
Okay.
These plans are extremely good for people that need things that Medicare doesn't cover, like dental, vision, podiatry. Medicare does not cover any of that.
Right. Okay, that's good to know. I'm going through my head of all the questions. So let's work with a hypothetical person. So we have a person that is turning 65,
Yes.
has a tier 5 medication,
Okay.
which is basically
It's an injectable.
it's an injectable. Correct. Okay. Where do they start?
Unfortunately, elections have consequences, and everyone voted for this twice. The way the prescription drug coverage works, or how it used to work when it was created in 2003 through the Medicare Modernization Act, you would apply for insurance to a private insurance company for prescription drugs. So prior to 2003, actually it was implemented in 2007. So prior to 2007, if you wanted to have medications covered, you'd have to go to the hospital for a medically necessary need, be admitted as an inpatient, and then all the drugs that they would prescribe because of that incident would be covered.
Okay.
If you needed medications and you didn't go to the hospital, you had to pay fully out of pocket.
Wow. Okay.
So what ended up happening is they created Part D, where people could buy their own standalone insurance and cover their medications. In the beginning of 2007, the way the drugs were covered was tiers. So tier 1 was generic drugs, tier 2 were lower brand name, higher generic quality drugs, and tier 3 were all brand name drugs. In 2010, with the Affordable Care Act, they created 2 new tiers. They created tier 4, which is for which is for living organisms. So that's your penicillin, that's your EpiPen, and then they created tier 5, which is an injectable. So anything that you have to inject into yourself, also insulin,
Is now tier 5.
tier 5 drug. Because of where we're headed as a nation with type 1 diabetes or child onset diabetes and type 2 diabetes for people that eat way too much sugar, that's really all it is. They ended up taking insulin out of
The tier 5.
tier 5 and they've created now a tier 6.
Wow.
So now there are 6 tiers. The reason why this becomes interesting for the person she's actually in a tier 5 because it's an injectable.
Right.
This example that we sort of know, she's taking a drug called Constantix. And that Cosentyx, I'm sorry,
Right.
Cosentyx.
I was like, wait a minute, that's not it.
The way Cosentyx works is basically it's for, I'm assuming she has arthritis, so she's arthritic.
I believe so, and autoimmune, yeah.
Autoimmune. So what that does, it allows the person with the ability to still be able to walk,
Correct.
be able to function. Because that drug is an injectable, it's a tier 5 drug. So what happened in 2010 under the Affordable Care Act, the President of the United States at the time actually made a statement stating that no health insurance company or no pharmaceutical company should be able to make a drug that they didn't have the science behind, because these living organisms drugs and these drugs that are injectables, if they get it wrong, can hurt everyone. And everyone applauded. What people didn't realize is what he did is he shut down the generic drug.
Oh, so you can only
get that drug from the manufacturer.
brand name and only from
On top of that, the insurance companies realized that the cost is going to be so overwhelming. What they did is they created the tier 5 and tier 6, tier 4 and 5, and they don't have to cover them the same way that they covered tiers 1 through 3.
1, 2, and 3. Wow.
So the example that we'd like to show is we'll use Cosentyx. If you go online and you just take a look, it's Medicare Drug Finder, anyone can do it. You place your drug in, you're going to find out that one dosage
It's $34,000.
Well, the one dosage is $6,000 a month. So
okay.
she needs 2, so she's going to pay $12,000 a month. Wow. Every month for the rest of her life.
Good Lord.
That's just one drug. Now, what other medications may she be on?
You would have to add.
So
Either
the way
one.
we look at it is somebody in that situation is most likely on a blood thinning medication. Those run anywhere between $450 to $800 a month.
Good Lord.
Now, when you take a look at what happened with the Affordable Care Act and why it's wonderful for the pharmaceutical companies, is you start looking at the EpiPen.
Right. My son uses an EpiPen and it's $600 and something.
Okay, so now if you take your dog to the vet and your dog has a food allergy, The same EpiPen that they're going to give your son, that they're going to use on the dog, is 17 cents.
What?
17 cents.
Why?
Because an EpiPen is universal.
So
But-
why is it?
Because for dogs and Canadians and people in Mexico and in India, you have competition. So you have multiple companies creating an EpiPen. In the United States, only one company is
Because
allowed
they
to
won't
distribute.
allow a generic.
They can't, because it's trying to protect you.
Oh,
Everything's
wow.
geared on trying to protect you, the consumer, for your own safety.
Yet putting millions of people on, making them unable to afford some of these exclusive medications.
And an EpiPen shouldn't be exclusive.
No.
That's why penicillin became so expensive. It's a living organism.
Wow.
It's all right there in front of us. It's happening right in front of us every single day.
Right.
And people are still outside, I will argue, looting and rioting to keep it that way. It's quite fun. So all we do at Jester Financial Technologies is we take a look at what your health is, what your health history has been, try to look at the future. Are you going to change your diet? Are you going to get healthier? And no, you're not. I'm not the pillar of being in shape, and I know the costs. I know what's going to happen. So what we do is we show people this is what you need to be doing in the future for retirement.
Good Lord. That is mind-blowing. And no matter, it's no wonder that people just sort of avoid it and say, yeah, I'll just do this. I'll just sign up for that or let it happen. And then when they get a couple of months into it, they find out that they just shot themselves in the foot, literally.
So it's not just shooting themselves in the foot. What ends up happening is because they put it off or they don't want to decide, or their financial advisor, who isn't a good financial advisor,
That was going to be my next question.
doesn't understand the rules and regulations, what ends up happening is they end up going bankrupt. So that's why 2/3 of all bankruptcies in the United States ends up being because of medical reasons.
For health, yeah.
It's not people that are in their 20s, 30s, and 40s that are going bankrupt. It's the people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s going bankrupt. Because as the example we're using is going to quickly find out, that $12,000, she's got a choice. That $12,000 a month bill is either getting paid or you're crippled for the rest of your life. What would you like to do?
She would like to get it paid.
So she has to actually bankrupt herself in order for it to be covered.
Now, does the powers that be, as in when somebody gets very, very ill and goes into long-term care, they go back and they look back 5 years at your financial statements, and if you all of a sudden were diversing yourself of this and this and this, they say, oh, you were doing
So
this to
that is
avoid.
a different subject. So
Okay.
that is planning for Medicaid, and unfortunately, under the Affordable Care Act, for any state that accepts Medicaid expansion, it's no longer a 5-year look back. It's actually indefinite. They can go as far back as they like. They can go year zero to yesterday.
Interesting.
And if they find that you've actually moved money, what they state is you are committing fraud against the federal government to rob the federal government of money.
Wow. So back to the Medicare. So if you have 401ks and IRAs, IRAs. Do they look at that and say, "Oh, you were a good person. You listened to your financial advisor. You listened to your employer. They said, put in a 401k and we'll match you. And now you've got, $100,000." What Medicare is going to look at that and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, you're going to have to pay the $12,000 a month
So,
till that's all gone."
In this example, yes, what will end up happening is Medicare will contact the IRS to see actually what their income is. They use their income, as we'll talk about in the next segment, but they use their income first for what is known as the Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount, or better known as IRMA. And all that is simply a tax or a surcharge on your Medicare premiums. If you've saved or earned too much money, you're going to
like
pay...
a Cadillac tax,
Well, that's worse than the
a
Cadillac
health
tax.
Cadillac tax.
So you're going to be paying extra. That's supposed to happen this year. That's one of the things you can, when you're going to the polls, you have to remember the Cadillac tax was supposed to take effect this year, and it did not under the current administration.
Right, but which was put in place by the previous 44.
Yes.
Okay.
So not only they look at your income for IRMA, what they're going to also look at, because this woman's going to quickly realize that affording $12,000 a month is not feasible.
Correct.
So they can apply for aid. And Medicare is very good at helping people getting the coverage they need or getting the services they need. And Medicare will pick up a bulk of that cost. But in order for them to do that,
You have to be indigent.
you have to have no money.
So here you've been the good doobie and told to save this and have an IRA and an IRA and a 401k. So you go out and you buy a big house, you pay off your house, you shuffle it around. I mean, you can't take it and go buy gold, because then when you go and sell it, they're going to know that you bought it and sold it anyway.
There's a lot of the simplest way that we try to show people is the two things that the financial industry will tell you never to do.
Roth IRA.
So Roth IRA or Roth 401k and life insurance. And they're two things that are absolutely despised by almost every single financial professional.
Why is that?
Because most financial professionals work for the federal government. Their job is to ensure that you have as much visible income to the federal government as humanly possible, so the federal government can collect more from you because of Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. That's their job.
So that's why they want to do such a good job for you and earn you a lot of money.
Well, they make a commission off it. That's the
right.
side. They make a little bit of money on it.
You make money, they make money, which is the way it should be.
They're doing the best that they can, and I'm not knocking them.
Right.
But in the grand scheme of things, the advice that is given by today's financial industry is, one, not following federal law, two, I'll claim fraudulent, and three, I'm sorry, it's evil. They should know better, and they don't.
Which is kind of like, I'm not going to go down that street. Our politicians should know better. They should know their civics and know their Constitution. This is kind of the same thing.
If we look at the example that you're just giving, so this person that's going to be going on to Medicare, she's been given advice to put money into traditional IRAs and max out her company's 401k. So she's putting as much money as she can possibly for savings, which is the right thing to do. She's also getting a tax break today, which is great. And the way they're going to use this, or the way that it's been sold to her, is that you have a certain amount of income coming in this year. You're going to take that money out, you're going to put it into your traditional 401k, which doesn't count as income. It's tax deferred. So we're going to lower your tax bracket today, which is a good thing. And then later on, you're going to have to take that money out at age 72, and you're going to be in a lower tax bracket. So you effectively beat the federal government.
Right.
Makes sense on paper. The problem is the federal government has also applied rules to retirement, which we'll talk about in the next segment, that the financial industry refuses to acknowledge.
So, so let's say, so now she's going to take her IRA money and 401k and put them into Roths. Is there a cost or a downside to doing that?
So here's the downside. Since she's already taken that money and invested it, when she takes it out, it's called a recharacterization. She's going to have to pay tax on that.
Okay.
So now that's taxable income that the federal government's going to see. Now, this person, this example, she's also on Medicare. Again, Medicare has this thing known as the income-related monthly adjustment amount, or IRMA. So they're now going to see that recharacterization. They're going to count that as income. They're going to apply her Social Security check, which is also income to it. And she's going to reach the IRMA threshold, and now she's going to pay 2 to 3 times more than she should for her Medicare premiums.
Wow.
So she's going to get taxed twice.
Twice.
Oh, and what's better is that this Medicare IRMA surcharge comes directly out of her Social Security check. So that depletes her Social Security check. So she's taxed 3 times. But what's even better is now that her Social Security check has been depleted by her Medicare premiums, she's then going to be taxed 85% of it, of her Social Security benefit. She's going to get taxed on income she's never actually really received. So she's going to be hit with 4 taxes, all to get the benefit of being able to delay paying the tax today so she can pay it tomorrow. That's what she's doing. Now, on top of that, she's now stuck with this pile of money that Medicare can now see. They're not going to help her offset this one drug cost of $12,000 a month until that money is gone. So now what does she do?
Go on vacation.
She can't. They're going to see it. There's
Right.
nothing she can do.
Well, they can see it now.
Yeah.
They can see it in the IRA. They could see it as it goes to the Roth IRA. Meanwhile, going on and on about taking more and more taxes 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And as they take each one of those taxes out of her Social Security check, it's the original amount counts as income, but even though they're taking more out of it,
Still
her
counts as
income
income.
doesn't go down.
Her income will go down. And then she'll have to pull more money out of her traditional 401k to live off of. They'll see that, and the cycle will continue.
So is there any way out of it?
Not have any money in traditional 401ks before retirement. But no one's going to do that.
But if we were putting them into a Roth,
You should be. That's all. That's the easiest solution.
right, but you get taxed on that, you said.
Yes.
But then they can't see it.
Yes. It's not recognized.
So you're paying the tax now to put it into a Roth IRA.
So you pay tax now to avoid 4 different taxes
taxes later.
Or you could delay now and get 1 tax break for the benefit of paying 4 later.
Mm-hmm.
That's the beauty of where we're headed.
And 45, if we reelect 45, is he aware of this? Do you think?
There's a couple things happening. What he's done significantly for everyone is Medicare is the largest block of, we'll call them the largest health insurer in the world.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a federal government entity, I'm not saying they're a Blue Cross Blue Shield, but what they do is they have the ability to negotiate with big pharmaceutical companies and tell them what they're going to pay for prescription drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Thus, they can start lowering the drugs. He is the only president since Medicare has come on board in 1965 to actually pass or try to pass legislation that allows Medicare to negotiate with pharmaceutical companies.
Which is kind of inconceivable that it never has before.
Well, the prior 2 administrations have set it up where the pharmaceutical companies get to rake in the most amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't like President Trump. That's what the media keeps telling us.
But yet he is trying to protect us, and
We don't want that. We want to pay more to big pharmaceutical companies.
so by voting for the other team, you're just saying yes, tax us more, take more, make it harder for us. And a harsh reality.
previous administration, the other candidate running for president, has the track record of jacking up an EpiPen from 17 cents to $800 a month or $800 a month.
So maybe I should take my son to the vet and get the EpiPen there.
Or as we like to call Canada. Go to Canada and you can pick it up for a quarter.
Well, Trudeau has closed the border, so I can't do that right
No,
now. So
there's always mail in.
there's always mail-in. Interesting, very interesting. So let's close this for Part A
Sure.
and come back for Part B, which is going to have PowerPoints and
We
more
believe-
exact data and graphs, etc.
Well, we're going to go over basically what we like to argue. It's the 4 rules of retirement.
Okay.
It's things that your financial advisor is never going to tell you. It's all federally mandated regulations. It's all sourced. It's all right there, right in front of you. It's a question on what do you choose to do? Do you want to accept the information? Or do you
Ignore
want to
it.
bury your head and wait for it to happen? And it's happening at breakneck speed.
Wow. So I want to thank you, Dan, for joining us on Chit Chatting with Jocelyn, and we'll be back for Part 2. Welcome back to Chit Chatting with Jocelyn. We are going into Medicare Part 2 with Dan, my guest from Jester Technology. Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
It's only been a
Jocelyn.
couple minutes, but
Yes.
thank you very much. So we're going to go right into a PowerPoint presentation that I assume you use whenever you visit all your different
But just
businesses?
yes, when not only businesses, but we're informing the general public of retirement. We go over. This is a more condensed, quicker version because
Okay.
of time.
time restraints. Yeah.
Yes. So we go over a little bit quicker, but yes, it's a condensed version.
All right. So we're going to go over the 4 rules of retirement, what everybody should know.
Yes.
So take it away.
Very simple. When we start talking about retirement, the simple 4 rules are right here. Believe it or not, you have a mandatory expense in retirement. Mandatory expense when you retire happens to be Medicare. You have to enroll into it when eligible. So when you're 65 and older and you're no longer covered by credible health insurance through an employer or spousal employer, you don't have a choice. The federal government dictates that you have to have health insurance.
Okay.
Now, if you do not enroll in a Medicare and you do not have credible health insurance elsewhere, you forfeit all current, future, and past Social Security benefits. So you give up 100% of your Social Security benefits.
Wow.
It gets worse. So let's say you're 62 years old or 63 years old collecting Social Security. You do not enroll into Medicare when eligible and you don't have credible health insurance. You have to pay back every single nickel of Social Security benefit that you've received prior to being Medicare eligible. Wow. It gets better. If you don't pay it back,
They put you in jail.
it gets better than jail. What they do is they open up an account and they put your name on it and they let the penalty grow. And then when your children have a tax refund or your children collect Social Security,
They take that.
isn't it great?
The things that people don't know of what they've been voting for, thinking that it's all great.
The current administration has actually ceased that policy for the current administration. Prior to that, the example that we like to give is Mary Grice from Baltimore, Maryland. She had lost her Social Security check because her father racked up a debt in 1960 to the U.S. Treasury. So by the time she became 66, I believe she started collecting her Social Security check, she lost 100% of it
So she was left with nothing.
for the year. Wow. Yeah, they took it because you have to pay. So you have a mandatory cost in retirement. You have no choice. You have to enroll in a Medicare. On top of that, you have this thing called the Affordable Care Act. I'm not sure if you ever heard of it.
Yeah, that disgusting,
Well,
I'm sorry, that disgusting legislation passed at midnight with no Republicans on board
however,
by 44.
however we want to look at it,
That's how I look at it.
I understand. So however you look at it, the Affordable Care Act states that you have to have credible health insurance. Currently, there is no individual mandate,
Correct,
meaning
they
the
got rid of it.
tax, so you're not penalized for not having health insurance. But the law still exists. So the next administration, all they have to do is apply the penalty or a higher penalty, and it's still there. The law still dictates you have to have credible health insurance.
Right.
So you have to have Medicare, correct?
Correct.
So the second rule, on top of you have a mandatory expense in retirement, this mandatory expense happens to be based on the amount of income you generate. So the more income you generate, the higher this mandatory cost.
Meaning Medicare.
Yes. Now, the income that they look at is defined solely as everything on lines 2A and 8B of the IRS Form 1040, or, as you can see from the slide, traditional 401k assets, wages, Social Security, capital gains, dividends.
So they count your Social Security that they took for all those years.
Yes.
They now count that as income.
Yes, they get to tax you twice on it. Isn't it great? And then on the fourth rule,
You know, to be honest, I'm laughing and feeling a little happy about what you're saying, only because I wasn't crazy all these years, because I kept saying they're going to tax you twice, maybe 3 times, and you're now validating that. So
they're taxing you, as we discussed in the earlier
4
show.
times,
They're
yeah.
actually taxing you 4 times because ultimately the fourth rule that no one will ever tell you is that your Medicare is coming out of your Social Security benefit.
correct.
So when you start talking about those two and combine, what you're going to notice is the projected rates of Medicare versus Social Security. So each year your Social Security check increases a little bit by what is known as the cost of living adjustment, or COLA.
COLA.
It's going up by a maximum of 2.4%. In 2021, it's going to be 1.3. Your Medicare premiums are projected to inflate at 5.86%. So what happens to everyone's Social Security check over time?
It's going to get less and less and less.
Because your Medicare premiums...
Because your Medicare premiums are going up, your Social Security monthly is going to go down.
Yes. So now the beauty is it can't actually go down. So the federal
They
government...
just take more.
Well, the federal government has mandated what is known as the Hold Harmless Act. That was created in 1984. And the Hold Harmless Act states that no one's Social Security benefit can ever go down from the previous year. So you can never see a negative amount. You'll always get the same amount that you got to.
Right.
Because
But if you're taking more Medicare, you're getting less. You're not. It's not actually going
Well, you
down.
owe. So what will happen
Right.
is, let's say you're making $1,000 a month in, say, 2020. Your Medicare premiums eat up your cost of living adjustment, and your Medicare check is really only supposed to be, let's say, $900. You can't go to $900, you stay at $1,000. Now, you still owe the difference. So now, let's say 2 years from that point, Medicare goes up, Social Security goes up extremely high. Well, you're not collecting that Social Security because you still owe in the rears.
So they'll take that.
You got to pay it back. Check can never really go up.
So it's likened to you get a bonus.
Sort of.
And they would take that
Yes.
to pay for those differences during that time.
Yep. And then we start taking a look at when we talk about healthcare, we start talking about what the actual expenses are. This is for somebody in New Hampshire. So if you take a look at original Medicare, as we were talking about earlier, you have a choice between what is known as original Medicare or Medicare Advantage plan. The reason why we use original Medicare is very simple. If you're covered by all of this, Part A, Part B, prescription drug plan, if you get admitted into a hospital for a medically necessary need, you pay nothing.
Right.
There's zero cost. There's no copay, there's no out-of-pocket. You can go see any physician in the country. They'll accept Medicare, and you can cross state lines. So with the Medicare Advantage plan,
you have to stay within.
you have to stay inside that network. So unfortunately what happens is if you happen to have a home in Florida and a home in New Hampshire,
not covered.
it's not covered in one of the states. And you can't own both plans. So you can't own a supplemental plan as well as a Medicare Advantage plan. It's illegal.
Wow.
So we use the most robust.
Correct.
So for the state of New Hampshire, you're looking at about $10,000. Now, again, we've told you what the premium, what Medicare is inflating at, 5.86. So we know that somebody in New Hampshire, 60-year-old healthy couple, wants to retire at 67 and live to the age of 85. Just math. They're going to pay $475,000 for the Medicare premium.
$475 rounded up, $1,000 between
67 and 85.
67 and 85?
Yes.
At $10,000 a year times two people, so that's $20,000.
Oh, it's more because it's 10,000 compounding at 5.86. So it's growing at 5.86% each year.
Go back to the. So I get that.
This slide?
Yeah. So Part A, that comes out.
You pay for it out of your taxes.
You pay that out of your taxes. Part B comes out of your Social Security check.
Yes. You pay for Part D and you pay for the supplemental plan.
Correct.
So that $274, you're going to pay, you could pay prescription drug coverage, Part D, out of your Social Security check, and then you're going to write a check for your supplemental plan.
Correct. Yep. So when you add that up, so that's $600-700 a month.
Yes.
Times two people is $1,400, and then growing times that 5.86.
You get $475.
Wow, that's not cheap.
No. Oh, it's going to get better too.
We're going to get more coverage.
Yeah, no.
No.
You get to pay more for the exact same coverage.
Because you were a good doobie and you have.
So we start talking about this is what the financial industry, unfortunately, is not addressing. Again, federal law. You have a mandatory expense. You can't get away from this. Now, you could say, I'm not going to pay for a Medigap supplemental plan.
Supplemental, right.
That means you pay the copays, deductibles, and excess charges out of Medicare. And how Medicare works is, let's say you go into the hospital and you're going into, let's say, gallbladder removed. You're going to pay $1,400, a little bit more for your deductible for Part A.
Yeah.
You're going to have a copay for Part B. It's going to be about 20%. And then you're going to get hit with an excess charge for the doctors. Are going to charge you an extra 15% that's going to come out of
For
your
every
pocket.
doctor that sees you.
For every doctor that sees you. So without a supplemental plan, you're paying all of that out of pocket. Now, here's how Medicare works. Let's say you're in the hospital for the gallbladder removal and you get diagnosed with COVID. Now, COVID, thankfully, there is the CARES Act, so I'm being a little extreme. The CARES Act is actually going to cover you, but let's say it's not there and you're not covered. So let's say you just got an infection. That's a new medical code. So that's a new onboarding or a new inpatient. That's another $1,400, another 20%, another excess charge.
Wow.
Now let's say you're in the hospital
And you get MRSA.
and you fall down and
fall down.
break a hip. That's a new incident and you get hit with all those costs again. You have an unlimited liability
Being
where
in
it
the
all
hospital.
goes away if you just have a supplemental plan. You could literally have a procedure done, a different procedure done every single day in that.
And if you have your supplemental with your regular Medicare,
Yep.
it's all totally covered.
All totally covered. And you can go anywhere in the country.
Which makes sense, but yikes, $475,000, and that's premiums and
That's just premiums. So they haven't taken a pill, they haven't seen a doctor.
Correct.
They haven't had their eyes checked. So for those that may want to have, say, prescription eyeglasses, unfortunately, Medicare doesn't cover that.
correct.
So you have to go get your own prescription drug cover.
Right.
Your own prescription glasses. That's why when you go to like the dollar store or Walmart or Home Depot, you'll see what they call readers for $1.
Yep.
It's because people on Medicare can't actually afford.
Well, I'm thinking about my mom and her glasses, even buying the most basic when she goes to the eye doctor, is between $250 and $350 for a set of glasses.
Set of glasses.
That can change from year to year as your eyesight can change.
Yeah.
So you can be spending that kind of money if you do contacts. So I do contacts, and I know that's about $500, $600 a year. And the thing is, you have to go, if you want a new prescription or you need to change your prescription, you have to go for another eye exam in order to get,
Which isn't covered by Medicare.
which
You
is
have to
not
add it.
covered, right? So you just keep adding and adding and adding.
Yes, isn't it great?
So why don't they just wipe it all out and let people buy their own medical insurance, period?
So the reason why the federal government doesn't do that, so in 1965 we had what is basically known as the Social Security Medicare Act, and they brought in Medicare. The reason for that to this day still is a little mind-boggling because at the time 95% of the U.S. population was covered
By
either
employers.
by, well, not just employers. They were covered by the employers or by the military because of World War I to the Korea.
Where we had a huge amount of people
So it was
in the
ultimately
military.
used also as a recruitment tool for the military. Come in, do your 4 years with inside the military, you're going to get free health benefits. So what did the federal government decide to do?
Do the same thing with Medicare.
Well, they wanted to take the onus off the military of providing health care, and they moved it over to Medicare. So now people don't have to go into the military, and they don't have to pay for their health coverage. And we voted for it numerous times.
I didn't vote for them to take, on the record. In
You weren't
full
alive-
disclosure
you
and
weren't alive in-
transparency, which are those words they toss around, I
understand.
did
You
not
were
vote.
not alive in 65 to vote. How's that? I will. You weren't even around in 65.
I might have been a sparkle, but in my dad's eye. But you know, it's really mind-blowing. How did they get this past people? It just sounds good, so let's do it. We're going to take care of you when you're old, and now we're looking at $475,000 if you're healthy.
Yes. Oh, we're not even talking. The issue that we even have with our software is we're not actually projecting what your healthcare costs are. We actually can truly project what the out-of-pocket healthcare costs are. We just need to know when you're going to get cancer and how much you're going to weigh. So the reason being is once we know what your health conditions are, we know what the medications that you're going to need are. And we know through your weight what your dosage is going to be, and we even know what the inflation rate of most prescription
So what's
drugs
the
are.
discount for healthy people that don't get heavy and don't have diseases
They're going to pay. They're lucky enough to be paying $475.
and not have to pay more?
Because again, we're going to talk about Medicare's IRMA, which is Medicare's means tested.
Okay.
So when you take a look at the slide here, these are the current IRMA brackets today. So for couples that are, an individual on the left-hand side earning under $87,000 or a couple earning under $174, they're not going to pay anything extra for their Medicare premiums. They're only going to pay $475 in the state of New Hampshire. if they happen to earn $1 too much, they're going to pay 40% more.
Almost.
The maximum is they're going to pay 240% more. And again, they define income as your Social Security check, capital gains, dividends, any wages, and any distribution from that traditional 401k.
Which you're forced to take.
At the age of 72. So now you take money out of the traditional 401k, they match it up with your Social Security check, and what happens to your Medicare premiums? To give you an idea of who's going to be impacted by this, if we take a 55-year-old New Hampshire resident that wants to retire at the age of 70, they're putting in $8,000 away into their traditional 401k because their financial advisor told them to. They earn $60,000 in wages, and they already saved 60 grand. They enter the IRMA bracket at the age of 78. Because we know what the $60,000 that they've already saved will grow at investing
Correct.
$8,000. Let's say they get a 5% rate of return. We know what their Social Security check will be if they earn $60,000. They maximize it to the age of 70. So we also tell people the third worst possible thing you can do in retirement is maximize your Social Security check before speaking to a financial advisor who understands federal law.
Okay, you lost me on that one.
So the
What do you
third,
mean maximize?
so people, you can take Social Security starting at 62. Each year that you delay or each year you go longer, it gets higher. Your maximum Social Security age, believe it or not, is 67. Now, if you get bonus or an 8% pay increase, if you let the government play with your money longer, then you take it at the age of 70. Once you take that income at the age of 70, you can never turn it off. So you've maximized the most amount of Social Security benefits that you can receive from the federal government. You can never turn it off. It counts towards IRMA. What's going to happen to your Medicare premiums?
They're going to go up.
Isn't it great? So what happens to your Social Security check?
It's going to go, they're going to take more out of it.
And here's the great part about IRMA. The federal government went ahead and changed the Hold Harmless Act in 2009 under the Medicare Fairness Act. Again, we voted for this. And stated that anyone that enters Medicare's IRMA bracket is no longer afforded the protection of the Hold Harmless Act. Thus, their Social Security check can and will go negative. Meaning, you will generate so much income that your Medicare premiums are so high that your Social Security check will not cover your Medicare premiums, and you have to write a check to the federal government
For your Medicare premiums.
on a quarterly basis.
Wow.
And then, here's the beauty. You're then taxed on the very same Social Security income you've never received.
That's just wrong.
No, it's not.
That's just wrong.
This is what your financial advisor is telling you to do.
That may be it. It's wrong. So what really cooks my goose, it makes me think, so while our taxes are paying the salaries of the politicians, they're not paying into Medicare. They
No,
have
God,
their
no.
own
They have their own health insurance.
They have their own health insurance, so they're not getting killed and taxed 4 times over like we are. And on top of that, we're paying for their Cadillac insurance.
But what gets even better is your public
Oh man,
employees.
am I gonna Publisher Clearinghouse gonna come and I'm gonna
You're gonna win. Here's another thing you win. Your public employees, like your teachers, firefighters, police officers, through the years they've generated contracts through their unions. Who pays for their Medicare premiums?
We do?
Yes. So pension income also counts towards Medicare's IRMA. So as they maximize their pension, they're not paying for healthcare costs
We are.
as we are. So what happens?
So
to
as
them?
ours goes up,
Yeah. So they're there.
so our taxes, what we have so not only do we get quadruple dipped, not only does our Medicare go up and we have IRMA, that we also are paying property taxes, and mostly for teachers, goes through the roof.
And here's what counts as income. As you're going to notice, is pension and rental income. All capital gains, dividends, and again, any distribution from any tax-deferred, qualified, traditional 401k, 403b, SEP, IRA. So everything that you have that you've been told to save as a dubious investor through your financial advisor, and even your employer should be on the hook for this. And that was
Right,
what,
because they're the ones that push 401ks.
so no, they didn't push, but they have figured out that the company match, they receive a benefit for giving you the company match.
Oh, okay.
So they're receiving a tax break by giving you money, and then what are you actually really getting?
higher tax
higher Medicare premiums, lower Social Security benefits, higher taxes. But your employer got the benefit of getting a tax break. This is where a few years ago, the former administration passed what is known as the Fiduciary Rule. And this was a way for them to go after all the employers that offer 401k plans that don't educate their employees on this, because this is all federal law. It's all federal law. This comes directly from the socialsecurity.gov. Now, it comes directly from us as the other, this is who's actually going to reach Medicare's IRMA, as we were saying, a 55-year-old person. But we were talking about, I actually don't have it, and I apologize. Oh, there it is. We start talking about what we're really looking at cost. So if we look at state of New Hampshire, 55-year-old, and that's supposed to be couple, I apologize.
Okay.
55-year-old couple retiring at 67, planning through age 85, they're going to pay $519,000. They earn $1 too much.
They're going to pay $643.
And if they hit the max amount of income,
$1 million.
Now, again, your public employees, I'm going to see if I can go back, have
nothing.
pension and rental, well, pension income counts.
Okay.
So now their pension income, which they're maximizing, and they might be getting what is known as Social Security through double indemnity, not as much, but they're going to receive some, plus all of their investments. What's their income go to?
Their income goes way up.
So now they don't pay that 1.1 million when they're in the
We
highest.
do.
Isn't it great?
This is really mind-boggling. And talk about the middle class really getting pounded.
Oh, it's going to get better. So to show you what's really going on, as we jumped to the slide earlier, I had to jump back because I went too far. When you take a look at the average, how Medicare is inflated through the years, you're going to see that in 5 through 20-year bands, every time Social Security gives a cost of living adjustment, your Medicare premium inflates by at least twice as much. So when you start looking at the real good fun of this, if you take a look at somebody who's 60 years old today, retiring at 67, what you're going to notice in blue is that's their Social Security benefit. We're going to inflate that at 2.4%, which is what the projected cost of living adjustment will be. The red line is their Medicare premiums. Their green line is their received Social Security check.
That's a big discrepancy.
Is it?
Yeah.
Now imagine, and I don't have the slide, but imagine being on Medicare's IRMA and that goes negative.
Then you really have nothing to live on.
Isn't it? Well, you do. You live on your own savings, and then what will happen is you'll pull more money out of that traditional 401k.
Right. Well, that's what I mean. You're going to be pulling that out. You're going to be paying the difference in the premiums, paying the difference for everything else. So you go bankrupt.
Well, they're going to. People argue they're rich. They can afford it. But are they really rich?
Well, that was going to be my question.
So now the next question now we throw in is you're dealing with this world right now and you're seeing that you're paying $475,000 for your Medicare premiums if you just do the right thing. If you then throw in health conditions and you start taking medications, especially medications that are not covered under the tier 1 through 3, but they're in
4, 5, or 6.
4, 5, and 6, you're now paying for medications out of your pocket that costs tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. So the question that we always like to ask, which financial firm's helping anybody plan for this?
None that I know of.
There isn't one. Actually, there is one that we work out of. They're out of Vermont. It's called National Life. But besides that, there isn't a financial firm in the country that actually addresses any of these federal laws. And they've only been on the books
80.
Well, so we talk about Medicare being mandatory. That's 1965.
Correct.
So we'll give them some credit. It's only been
It's not really been that long
60
when
years.
you think about it.
Well,
Yeah.
really, it's been 60 years.
Yep.
You'd think they would figure out law. Social Security benefits coming out of your Medicare premiums. I mean, Medicare premiums coming out of your Social Security check. That was law in 1984.
Right, so the
So
80s,
that's
yeah.
not really, I mean, that was like yesterday.
40, 50. But when it's federal law.
It's federal law. I mean, there's no reason to apply federal law since 1984. Medicare IRMA, it's only been a law since 2003. That's kind of new. So you really can't, it takes them at least 50 to 60 years to catch up to federal law. So you can't expect them to actually plan for Medicare's IRMA. They can't do that till about 2040, 2050.
In which case, we won't be around.
Well, but
Maybe.
you also won't have any assets.
Correct.
And this is all,
We'll be living in
believe it or
huts.
not, a majestic plan. The reason why it's a majestic plan is we like to show this one particular chart. It comes from the Congressional Budget Office. It came out in 2007. The reason why we use the chart still, and it's 13 years old, is 2007 was the first year for Medicare's IRMA. So what is the CBO telling us? This is a chart that shows how the total U.S. budget, Social Security, and Medicare are going to interact through the next 60 to 70 years. Now, what happens to the total budget? What do you see? What do you notice?
The U.S. budget stays pretty level.
And then you look at Social Security, and what happens?
It's level.
And what happens to Medicare?
It goes up.
So they know
Exponentially.
that when your Medicare premiums go up, how much do they have to pay out in Social Security?
More.
Really? When your Medicare premiums go up,
Oh, no, they're
much
not
is-
going to have to pay out more because they'll keep taking it out of you.
so do they have to
Social
pay out your
Security.
Social Security check? So does Social Security ever really have to worry about going bankrupt?
No.
Now, the reason why the U.S. budget gets to stay level, all these Medicare IRMA surcharges that everyone pays
Goes back into the budget.
goes back to the general fund of the U.S. Treasury per order of the 2015 Bipartisan Budget Act. So, as long as Medicare continues to increase in premiums and prices, what is everyone actually really doing? They're ensuring that the federal government
Is
can
going to
continue.
stay level and liquid
Isn't it great?
off of our backs again.
So, real quick, what we talk about is what is not income. Obviously, life insurance, 401h plans, Roths. Again, we want to talk about people need to realize that there are 4 rules. You have to enroll in a Medicare. It's mandatory. It's based on income. Income is your traditional 401k. You're going to lose your Social Security check. Now, if there's anybody that needs any information, feel free. Our phone number is 208-231-7080. We will offer it to people in obviously Nashua or wherever. We'll gladly give them a free report, or they can obviously email me and send me the
That's
information.
nice. And it's Dan McGrath from Jester Technologies.
Jester Financial.
Jester
Technology.
Financial Technologies, thank you. And say the number again.
208-231-7080. It's a Boise, Idaho number.
Okay.
That's where our
But
sales
it's real.
crew
There it is, right up there on the.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope we didn't scare the pants off of you. But feel free to reach out to Dan, and hopefully we can give you some more information in future shows.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.